to those conference semifinals. And let's just start with the Nuggets because we were just talking about them. And the Nuggets currently lead the Oklahoma City Thunder 1-0 in their series, as we talked about earlier. And the Thunder are the top seed in the Western Conference. And the crazy thing about Golden State winning in Minnesota last night is that for the first time in NBA history, all 4 road teams won game 1 of the conference semifinals in the same season. And that would not have happened if Aaron Gordon didn't hit a tremendous game-winning 3. And the funny part about that game was that Chet Holmgren is at the line. He has a chance to put the Thunder up 2. He misses the free throw. Nuggets get the rebound. Ball gets passed off to Russell Westbrook. And you can see, as a clip surfaced on the internet, that the Nuggets analysts in the studio for their own home broadcast, when Russ had the ball back in OKC, he's dribbling up the court, seconds ticking down, and all the analysts are going, no, 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 no. And then he passes it off to Aaron Gordon on the left wing. Gordon hits the 3, and the Nuggets end up stealing game 1 in OKC. It was something that I thought was pretty cool. And it's been a wild start to these conference semifinals, Kevin. Just what was your reaction to the game-winning 3, but also OKC after they looked so dominant against the Grizzlies, letting one slip against the Nuggets?
I know for a fact that they were at home watching Game 7, hoping and praying that they got to play the Clippers. Shaun mentioned it. Aaron Gordon's resurgence. Jamal Murray's always known to be a playoff riser. And I was telling everybody, if the MVP was a full season award, there's a chance that Shea would lose it. Because for the Joker to put up 42, 22, and 6, and then have the supporting cast, Jamal Murray out there 21, 6, and 6. You have Aaron Gordon 22 and 14. And then you have fucking Russell Westbrook. First game back in OKC as a playoff game, 18 points. For him to come in there and play that kind of a game and have that impact goes a long way. And, I sound like a broken record. We said this last year when the Thunder went out. These young guys just might not be enough to win. And against the Minnesota Grizzlies, or the Memphis Grizzlies, we talked about how much depth they have from the Isaiah Joes, the Cason Wallaces, the Lords. They had all this depth. That's all we talked about in that first round series, is how this depth came and they answered the bell. Well, in game 1, they did not. Jalen Williams, 16 points, 5 of 20 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3. And then Shaun mentioned Chet before the missed free throws, 12 points, 5 of 11, 0 for 3 from 3. I would have never thought in my day that I would come on a podcast saying that the Denver Nuggets bench showed up and helped their MVP more than the Thunder did. The Thunder's bench did not come to play. SGA put up a 33.9. He did what he was going to do. But the other guys did not show up, and that's the reason they lost to the Mavericks. They lost to the Mavericks. The other guys just didn't show up. The lights got too bright. Last year, the excuse was this was their first go-around. They'll do better next year. And in the first round series, it was a cakewalk. And now, when the lights get bright, Jalen Williams, Chet start shaking. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But like I said, I know they were at home hoping that they got to play the Clippers. So they're another team that gave them a 20-point lead. They got comfortable, and the Denver Nuggets have that championship mentality. And it's just like when we talked about in the recap with the Warriors versus the Rockets. It goes to show the youth versus the championship mentality. The Nuggets never thought for a second that they couldn't win that game. And one thing that I'm going to harp on, when you're up 3, don't fucking foul. Just play. Whoa. Just play. Just trust that you have defense, that you're going to stop them from making a shot. Because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but every time they would have Joker out, them fouling brought him back in the game. So you have the 3-time MVP on the bench. If your philosophy is foul, I understand that. In this scenario, with the MVP on the bench who has 44 points and 22 rebounds, leave his ass on the bench. Trust in your defense. This is the reason you brought in Alex Caruso. This is the reason why Lou Dort and Jalen Williams get talked about as they're going to make an all-defensive team. You have the guys to defend. Put them out there and let them defend. Because if you're not going to let them defend and you're just going to foul and bring these guys in, we saw the worst of it yesterday. So when you have the Joker on the bench, fouling does nothing to help benefit, and we saw. And I know everyone wants to blame Chet for the missed free throw, but like I said, if you don't foul, because you know what? They make it, they miss. you live with it. Putting them on the free throw line and putting the Joker back in the game bit him in the ass. So, and the Thunder have a lot of work to do, but it comes down to the other guys. If the other guys aren't going to perform, this is going to be a long series.
Jaevon, just what's your thoughts on the Thunder and Nuggets series after one game, and your reaction to Game 1?
Jokic had 44 and 22. what are we talking about, man? Shea had a pretty good game. I think he had 31 and 8 or something like that. Shea hooped for OKC. He did what he needed to do. The guys like Aaron Gordon, Russell Westbrook, a lot of people who call him a coach killer. People have been calling him that, but Russ been hooping this whole playoffs. Call me crazy. I think Russ is one of the best players on the Denver Nuggets. He almost had a shot. Like, he had a chance to, win the game last night. And he also had another chance to throw the game on that final play when he could have easily just drove to the basket. But he kicked out to Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon hit another game-winning bucket. He's second that he's at for this playoff run. How are they going to stop Jokic is my question. Chet Holmgren got to start seeing a little bit more. Second playoff run, you're number 2 overall pick? I need more. You can't be fumbling the bag when you get to the free throw line and miss not 1, but 2 free throws. If you just would have made 1, that would have been all right. The game would have been it's the foul up 3 situation. I feel like it works to a certain degree when there's a certain amount of time on the clock. If there was 13 seconds left, you don't foul right away, and hypothetically you're extending the game, basically, and you're banking on your young players to make free throws. Now, free throw merchant might be good in this situation. Now, start getting to other guys like Chet Holmgren, they start to think about it a little bit, and it starts to get into their head. We're the number 1 seed. This is our second playoff run. This is our first home playoff. This is our first playoff game of the semifinals. Starting to get a little deeper. We didn't get farther than this round last year, and albeit I know he didn't play. What was that? Was that last year? No, he did play last year. I think that was the year before he was hurt. But I think what OKC needs to kind of harp on is just getting their young guys involved early. SGA is going to be SGA. He's going to get 30 pretty much whenever he wants. I think it's just those guys getting involved early and not feel like when they have a huge lead to kind of hang on the lead. I feel like they just let off the gas and they tried to keep the lead rather than just playing basketball. And we kind of saw that in the first round series when they're playing against Memphis and they were up 20 and Chet's blocking Ja Morant and they're up 20 with a minute left. I didn't really get that same energy that they were in the first round when they were going against Memphis. So we'll see tonight. I think Jokic is going to probably have a triple-double tonight. You can probably gamble on that. I think it's going to really evolve. In the playoffs, eyeballs start to get a little bit bigger on these other, players that aren't named SGA on the team. It's hey, well, what's that guy doing? Hey, what's this guy? We'll probably get into nothing. Well, yeah, we'll get into it probably next. But Donovan Mitchell did everything possible that he could do in his power last night, and they still lost. So SGA needs some help, and guys like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, I'm being very specific on those guys. Got to step up.
Real quickly, obviously, we didn't get a chance to do our semifinals predictions before the series started. And so now there's the hindsight of what happened after game 1 or even 2 games, as Toddy was alluding to in that Cavs-Pacers series. I'm just going to start things off by saying for this series, I'm going to go with the Thunder in 6 games. And the main reason why, and I would have said that even before the game 1 win for the Nuggets, I feel like Denver would steal 1 game in OKC as they already have and then get 1 on their home floor. I'm going to go with Thunder in 6 for this series. Kevin, how about you?
Thunder in 5. I don't think the Nuggets win another game. I think they're going to fix the problems. But that's with me hoping and anticipating that Chet and Jada come to play. If they don't come to play, then this can be a 7-game series toss-up. But if I'm hoping that they're going to fix things and come back out ready to play. So I'm going to take the Thunder at 5.
All right, Jaevon, who do you got in this series?
I like the Thunder still. I like them in 6 games. I think Denver gets a game at home. Jokic is going to go nuclear once again. I think he's probably going to average like 35 points this series. You just won't be able to do anything about that. It's going to come down to, like we said, kind of doing a little bit of hoping and wishing here, but based off of recent data, SGA is out there by himself, and we're hoping and we're wishing that Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, based off of the regular season, that they will show up in these big time moments. So, hoping and wishing OKC in 6 games.
All right, so that brings us to our other semifinal series in the Western Conference. And that one started last night, being Tuesday night. And that was what could have been a 2-3 matchup. Instead, we have a 6-7 matchup in the Western Conference as the Timberwolves and the Warriors are facing off. And as we talked about earlier, the Warriors stole game 1 in Minnesota. And they did it mostly without Stephen Curry, as Steph Curry, he strains his hamstring in that game last night in the second quarter. And it was crazy because the Warriors led by double digits at halftime. I think it was by 16, like 51-35, something like that. And then they lead by double digits for basically the rest of the game. The Timberwolves cut it down to 9 and 7 at one point. But that was the closest they got with about 4 minutes left. And then the Warriors go on to win that game. And so, Jaevon, what was your reaction to game 1 of this series? And how do you feel about it overall?
Kind of shocked. I would say, well, Steph Curry had 13 points in 13 minutes before he went out with that hamstring injury. The Timberwolves shot really poorly. This is the second game in a row that they've done that, dating back to game 5 against the Lakers. They didn't shoot that great in that closeout game, but they were still able to get out the victory. So Steph Curry now being out, I feel like is going to change their offense a little bit. I did see what Draymond Green said. I think post-game he was saying, when he was talking about Jimmy Butler, like Jimmy Butler carried that Miami Heat franchise to the finals twice, kind of by himself. So I think I would like to think that Steve Kerr is going to play through Jimmy Butler in these next couple of games because according to the reports, Shams Charania said that Steph's going to be out at least a week. That's could be like, how many games can happen in a week? That's like 2-3 games. So
yeah,
how comfortable does Golden State feel being up 1-0? What are they going to look like going forward? Are they going to kind of just mail in game 2 and just get to game 3 and hope for a Jimmy Butler explosion game, or are they going to keep their foot on the gas? I would like to think that they would do that based off of the guys they have on their roster, guys like Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green. They're not going to lay down for anybody. But Anthony Edwards is one of those guys who is the legend killer kind of these playoffs. Going back to last year's playoffs, he's taking all these guys out one by one. Took out KD last year, took out LeBron this year. I mean, he took out Jokic a couple of years ago, or what was that, last year, I think? So Anthony Edwards is no slouch when it comes to the playoffs, and I don't think this playoff or this shooting drought is going to last very long, and I think they bounced back in game 2. They shouldn't have lost this game. This was a game that, Steph's out? They should have been smelling blood in the water. But obviously the shooting woes continue, and they go and they drop, and I mean, guys like Draymond was hitting threes. Podziemski was hitting threes. We saw Jonathan Kuminga was stepping up. Buddy Hield has been having a hell of a playoffs just in general. So, I mean, Alfred and I guess, is Jimmy Butler Batman? Who would Batman be? Batman would be Steph, and Jimmy Butler's Robin, and Alfred is Buddy Hield. I don't know. The dynamic that they have is pretty funny. But the Warriors are going to be – they've been scrappy all playoffs, and we'll see what they look like with this new-look Warriors team moving forward, going into game 2.
Kevin, what was your reaction to game 1 between the Warriors and the Timberwolves and just the series overall?
Being one of the only 2 members of the Statue of Politics to choose the Golden State Warriors, a lot of people ask me why I did that. I got a lot of comments. Our boy Wesley just laughed. That was all he ha-has. I let him know, and I wanted to let the world know. The mirage of the other guys on this team being really good only happens in LA because the Los Angeles Lakers don't have any defenders. They don't have any defenders. These guys will shoot wide open jump shots. So I just want to compare some numbers from game 1 to game 1. So game 1 versus the Lakers, Naz Reid hit 6 threes. Julius Randle hit 4 threes. Anthony Edwards hit 4 threes. Jaden McDaniels hit 3 threes. And Mike Conley hit 2 threes. Game 1 versus the Golden State Warriors, the number 1 defense in the NBA. Julius, 0. Anthony Edwards, 1. Jaden, 0. Mike Daniels, 0. DiVincenzo, 1 for 7. And Naz Reid, 3 for 7. Is this the real Memphis? Not the Memphis Grizzlies. Is this the real Minnesota Timberwolves? It's really easy to say that, did they think they were going to win a championship after beating the Lakers? Was that just it? Is this just one game in one series and we're champions? Because that's what they came out there and played like. Everyone has been saying that Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan. He's the next this. He's the next this. Like I said, 1 of 5 from 3, 9 of 22 from the field. If you were to tell me Steph Curry is only going to play 13 minutes, I'm going to say the Warriors lose the game by 30 points plus. Draymond Green, playing out of his ass. I don't know if you guys mentioned this, but he hit four threes in the first half. And then he proceeded to shoot 6 more and missed the next 6. But Buddy Hield came in and had to step up, having 2 points at the first quarter or the first half, and then finished it with 24. He hit 5 threes. Jimmy Butler playoff Jimmy had a bad night. And for him to have a bad night and they win in this fashion goes to show that this defense is no joke. 20 points, 7 of 20 shooting. Steph Curry, I meant to mention this when we recapped the first round series. In game 7 versus the Rockets, he ran 2.5 miles, which is the most in his career. So his age is starting to show. To have a 2-day turnaround and to be 13 minutes into the game and his hamstring gets tight. For a guy who likes Stephen Curry, who likes to run around and, like I said, run up north to 1.5 miles, 2 miles a game, he's already been ruled out for game 2. He's out for about a week. So game 3 is up in the air. But at this point, the Warriors have won game 1, so they can just kick their feet up. And the goal was always to win 1, and they got that. Now, if they come in here and they win another one without Stephen Curry, they're going to have the Timberwolves are going to have a lot of problems and a lot of answers to say. Chris Finch came out there and called out Anthony Edwards, and his response was, well, I played good defense. The ball just wasn't going in. You can't be the next Michael Jordan saying that. But like I said, it's easy to say that they just had an off shooting night, but I think this is what the Minnesota Timberwolves actually are versus what we saw in the 5-game series with the Lakers, because the Lakers don't have a point to defend a guy to stop the ball. They don't have any wing defenders. You're not getting the same kind of Lakers defense when you play the Warriors. The Lakers don't have a Jimmy Butler. They don't have a Pajinski, I think his name is. And Steph Curry played really well. They don't have a Gary Payton. Like, they don't have a lot of these defenders that the Golden State Warriors do. And like I mentioned, since Jimmy Butler joined this team, they have been the number 1 defense in basketball. So I think yesterday is what we'll see from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think this is what they truly are. A lot of people thought because of what they looked like versus the Lakers, they were just going to come out here and do the same thing. But like I said, the Golden State Warriors have defenders, and they don't have Luka Doncic out there guarding. So it's I was not surprised by the game at all.
So before this series started, I probably would have picked the Timberwolves in 7. But given the injury to Steph Curry and the fact that this is his first strained muscle of his career, and so as Toddy was alluding to earlier with Sham's report, he's probably out at least a week. Like, that's a minimum. And I know it's the playoffs, so they're going to do everything in their power to get him back. But we also don't want a strain to turn into a tear of the hamstring, of the Achilles, as we saw with Kevin Durant years ago with a calf strain that turned into an Achilles tear. We don't want anything in Steph's legs to tear by coming back too soon from a hamstring strain. Obviously, if he doesn't come back within the next 2 weeks, the series is likely over, and the Warriors probably do not win this series if Steph Curry is unavailable for the rest of this series. And so all that said, with the hindsight of knowing about Steph's injury, I probably would have picked the Wolves in 7, but because of Steph's injury, even after last night's game, which really impressed me, because the Wolves started mounting a comeback late, and I thought that they were going to take it, but the Warriors held on. Jimmy Butler is playoff Jimmy. Respect on his name is deserved. But all that said, given Steph's injury and the unclear timeline of when he's going to return, I'm taking the Timberwolves in 6. And so that's knowing the Warriors already took one game. I think the Warriors maybe win one more game on their home floor, a Buddy Hield game as I'm wearing my NBA Jam shirt. I never would have thought with this shirt that, and for the audio-only listeners, it's a De'Aaron Fox Buddy Hield NBA Jam shirt that I got like 7 years ago.
Haters will say it's Photoshop.
Yeah, and I never would have thought wearing this shirt in 2025 that we were talking about playoff success, and the one who is having the playoff success is Buddy Hield, not De'Aaron Fox. Like, that's crazy for me to say or even think about. Anyways, I'm not trying to ramble, as I already am. Give me the Wolves in 6. Jaevon, how about you?
I think this is probably another 7-game series. Warriors are trying to string this out as long as possible because they need their guy back. It's very tough. Anthony Edwards is a dog. They're already
Georgia
down.
Bulldog.
They're already down 0-1 right now. Without Steph, Jimmy Butler's still there. Buddy Hield's been hooping. And like Kevin said, these are not the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic is not out there playing defense. That was funny. That was a good one because the Wolves are notoriously known for having a good defense, and it didn't work for them last night. So that scares me. And they didn't have Steph Curry. So give me the Warriors. I'll take the Warriors in 7 games.
Ooh, all right, Kevin, how about you?
Ant-Man, Spider-Man, Batman. Give me the Warriors in 7.
There it is.
Wow. All right. I know you guys both said 7, so it's like you're giving the Wolves 3 games. But for Steph's injury to have just happened, like it's not like he got injured in the Rocket series and they're hoping for him to come back like during this series. It just happened, and he's old.
I don't know if he believes they have another chance.
Yeah. Very, very true, Kevin.
The other side of the coin is they saw KD go out. So yeah. Steph is a lifer there. So he has nothing to prove. I know we all say that all the time, but I think he's got to give it a go, game 3. And if he's out there as a decoy, can go a long way. Mm-hmm. But there's no way he sits this out. He played with one hamstring before he didn't play at all.
Yeah, that's a great point about him being a decoy because teams that have been scouting against him have tended to put 2 defenders on him. I mean, I think that might be the case when he comes back. Maybe not afterwards, but still, even having one guy on him would definitely be interesting. And so, Kevin, as we're going to close things out and just talk about these last 2 series real quickly. Jaevon, I know you got Podfather duty to attend to, and so we appreciate you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, you guys.
Jaevon,
5 minutes. You don't get to run away from the Celtics shit.
I'm not running away. I'm not running.
You got to give me 5 minutes. I'll be quick because people got to hear what you got to say.
Okay.
Are you able to stay on, Jaevon? Or
yeah, go ahead. The Celtics.
Okay. All right. Well, just real quickly, just because Podfather duties, having a little toddler tend to pull you away sometimes, and it's understandable. Before anything else happens, could you just tell us your predictions for the other 2 series in the Eastern Conference, just how you think those are going to turn out?
I think the Celtics win in 5 games. I think the Pacers win in 6 games.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna cut.
I'll go ahead. Kevin wants me to talk about the Celtics series. We missed 45 threes the other night. It's the most in NBA history. We shot 25% from 3-point range. That's not going to happen again. I mean, the Knicks, we were up 20. We let off the gas. Shit happens. We gave up 20-point leads a couple of times last year, and that's even insane to say, giving up 20-point leads. It's who's the scariest team when they're up 20? So, again, Jason Tatum shot like 4 of 15 from 3. Nobody shot the ball well. I mean, and we lost by 3 points. We would have made 2 or 3 more threes, we win the game. So, great. Congrats to the Knicks. You see all the Knicks celebrating in Times Square, the bing bong this, bing bong that. Everyone's excited. They're happy. Just watch the game tonight, and we're going to win by double digits. Just how it goes. Celtics are going to bounce back. It's going to be pretty easy.
Is Jason Tatum going to bounce back?
Yeah. He's going to be. He had 25, 23, 25.
Batman. And 0 for 7 in the fourth, 1 for 2 in overtime. That's not Batman.
Didn't shoot the ball well. So
last shot didn't go to Robin.
We'll just watch the game tonight. We'll be good. Everything will be fine. Everything's going to work out. We'll be all good.
All right, Jaevon. Well, we appreciate you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right, guys.
So, Kevin, to dive into those two series real quickly in the Eastern Conference, as we were just talking about with Jaevon, the Celtics are currently trailing the Knicks 1-0 in this series, or 0-1 from the Celtics perspective, as the Knicks, they came back to steal game one. Jalen Brunson had a chance to win the game in regulation, but his shot fell or just rimmed off. And so the Knicks end up winning in overtime, basically a game-winning play by Mikal Bridges on defense in this one. And so the Celtics are the 2 seed. They're the reigning champions, and they're trailing 1-0 in the semifinals. I just have to say, going into this series, I probably would have picked the Celtics to win this series in 6 games. And just because there's no significant injuries, a la Steph Curry, I'm going to stick with that take as much as that's true for sure. But I'm gonna stick with that take. I'm gonna go with the Celtics in 6. But I was rooting for the Knicks in game 1. I'm gonna continue rooting for the Knicks, and I want to be wrong again, just like I was with the Lakers. But good win by the Knicks in game 1. But I'm going to stick with the Celtics in 6. What's your take on this series overall?
Knicks in 6. If it goes to 7 and they got to go play in the Garden, it's gonna be up. But if they could host them at the Mecca, that would be the most important game held in New York in over a century. But getting into this game, Jason Tatum just didn't show up. I get it. He scored 19 points, 6 of 14 through the first 3 quarters. But like I told Toddy, in the fourth quarter, you went 0 for 7. In overtime, you went 1 for 2. And let me just give you some breakdown on Jason Tatum as a fourth quarter scorer in the season. 32% from 3, 32% from the field and 20% from 3. So it's been proven that he doesn't show up in the fourth quarter when they need him most. Like we mentioned, Porzingis went down, only playing 13 minutes, and the game really hurt them. And then if this team's not going to be healthy, I don't know how far they can go. This game, if this shows anything, it shows that the New York Knicks were right to trade Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and 5 first-round picks for OG and Mikal Bridges, because they came in when they needed them most. OG had 29 points, and I know the numbers don't show it for Mikal, but we don't need him to be Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn Nets, Mikal. If he can just be the Phoenix Suns, Mikal Bridges, they can take this team a long way. So it just goes to show. Jalen Brunson shows that he is a playoff riser, and he rose. So I'm really happy to see that the Knicks did not give up. Karl Anthony Towns has to find a way to stay out of foul trouble. But I would never thought that they would give a 20-point lead, and they did. They got lackadaisical. But Jalen Brunson has been a fourth quarter riser his whole career. In the playoffs through 16 games, in the fourth quarter alone, he has 272 points with shooting splits of 47, 40, and 82. Jason Tatum has played 15 more playoff games, so that's 15 more fourth quarters, and he has 257 points with splits of 38, 24, and 89. So it just goes to show that when their teams need them the most, Jalen Brunson's going to rise. And with that being said, New York Knicks in 6, bing bong.
Oh, I like it. I want you to be right, because I'm rooting for the Knicks in this series. As we know, close personal friend of the pod, Jalen Brunson. We appreciate him for elevating to the superstar that he is, and I'm very happy for him after the disrespect that he received in Dallas. And now we see where the Mavericks are at. And so I got the Celtics in 6. Toddy has the Celtics in 5. Kevin has the Knicks in 6, and I want Kevin to be correct. As now we get to this last series in the NBA Conference Semifinals. And this is the only series that has already played 2 games by the time that we're getting into it. And that is the Cavaliers, the 1 seed, and the 4 seed Pacers. And the Pacers went to Cleveland and walked away with 2 wins. And a lot of it has to do with Tyrese Halliburton, former Sacramento King, who I'm shedding a tear because he's a former Sacramento King. I'm always going to support him throughout his career. But, man, he has been balling in these playoffs. A lot of late game situations where he has been thriving. And with game 1, the Pacers, and that was with Darius Garland out. Darius Garland was out again in game 2, but also Evan Mobley was out in game 2, which was pretty significant. And without Darius Garland in game 1, the Pacers basically controlled that game. They were always up by about 5-6 points throughout, even late into the game, and the Cavs tried to chip away, and they still couldn't, and the Pacers got the game 1 win. Then in game 2, the Cavs, without Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, 2 starters, they're up 20 points, and then they end up losing that lead. They lose the game as Tyrese Halliburton ended up missing a free throw, and he ends up absolutely cooking Ty Jerome with a nasty step back 3. He has perfected that to a T. And I got to mention a couple stats about Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers in general, because from ESPN research, since 1997-98, which was the year Kevin was born and the year Jaevon and I were born, since then, teams are 3 and 1,640 when trailing by 7+ points in the final minute of the 4th quarter or overtime. The Pacers this postseason have 2 of those wins, which is just absolutely crazy that they have done something twice that happened once in the last 18 years. And so that's a crazy stat. But also in regard to Tyrese Halliburton, he is 10 of 11 on shots to tie or take the lead in the last 2 minutes this year. And he has shown how clutch he is scoring late throughout the Bucks series, but now in this Cleveland series. And I'll wrap up my thoughts on this just by saying that when it comes to this series, coming into it, I would have said Cavaliers in 6. And I'm trying not to use hindsight to aid me here with my prediction. So I'm going to stick with my prediction of Cavs in 6. That would mean the Cavs have to win the next 4 games. Don't think it's unlikely I don't think it is likely with how this Pacers team is playing. And all I could think about in game 1, but especially after they won game 2 last night, was that conversation that we had, Kevin, throughout the first round, where it was like, are the Pacers doing this because the Bucks just aren't that team anymore? Or are they doing this because the Pacers are it? And the more that they succeed against the Cavaliers, the more I'm thinking that this Pacers team is legit and could have a chance to get to the NBA Finals if things break their way. I'm telling you that right now because they're doing this to the 1 seed. Yeah, they would have to play either the Knicks or the Celtics in the next round if they get there, and I'm sticking with my prediction of Cavs in 6, so this could all be for naught. But what I've seen through the first 2 games of this series and from the first round against Milwaukee, even with the Dame injury, Giannis was doing everything he could to will them to a win, and they still closed them out in 5 games. And so the Pacers are legit. Tyrese Halliburton is absolutely balling. And so all that said, I'm sticking with what my prediction would have been going into this series, which is Cavs in 6. But the Pacers could easily close it out in 6, as Jaevon said. What are your thoughts on this series, Kevin?
Well, Shaun, to kind of rebut that, there's only been 5 teams to come back from down 0-2 or down 2-0 in NBA history in the playoffs. So the odds are stacked against them. If DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Darius Garland don't play, I think it's time you got to blow this up from the Cavaliers standpoint, because now they're going to have the title as just being a regular season team. I know you're missing your all-star point guard, you're missing the defensive player of the year, all-star guy, and DeAndre Hunter has been really huge since being acquired at the trade deadline. Everyone was expecting Ty Jerome to have this amazing game. They have the guys like Max Strus. They came out to play in game 2. We don't really have to discuss game 1. It was the Pacers got away early and they never really let up, like you mentioned. But game 2, the Pacers came in there comfortably saying, we just needed one. We wanted to steal home court. And the Cleveland Cavaliers came out there saying, we cannot lose this game. Donovan Mitchell had 48 points in game 1. He had 33. And I'm getting reminiscences. When I watch these 2 games, I'm seeing the bubble Donovan Mitchell. He is single-handedly carrying this team to the finish line, but unfortunately, they just don't have enough. The other guys, I get it. You know, Ty Jerome's been getting a lot of love this year. Max Strus has always been one of those guys. They just don't have enough. Those guys are what we call swing guys. You know, you get them, they get the ball, they swing it to the Darius Garlands, they swing it to the Evan Mobleys. Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell was not enough to beat this team. And I was one of the guys to come out here and say that if before the series, I would have taken the Cavs to win. But with everything being said, if they don't come out here and play game 3, and those guys being Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter, this series will not make it back to Cleveland. The Pacers are not going to let their foot off the gas. For them to have the anticipation of the Celtics-Knicks series going long, for them to be able to get this game over with and out in 4 games can go a long way. Talking about the Pacers, with all that being said, before I go on to the Pacers, the Cavs had a chance to win this game. It comes down to turnovers and boxing out, to simplicity, the simple things. If they do that, all the things that I just said don't matter because they're going to Indiana 1-1. They just couldn't finish it, and you can tell that Donovan Mitchell was just burnt out. He gave everything he could for them to lose by 1 point. The Indiana Pacers, I think the biggest difference from this team this year and last year is they have the experience now. We talked about it with the Rockets and the Warriors series. Once you have that experience in your belt, they don't crumble. They don't ever think that they have no chance of coming back. And Benedict Mathurin being on this team this playoff run goes to show a long way. Having 19 points off the bench and 13 points in game 1, giving them that extra guy. You know, Andrew Nembhard got to get that experience last year because Mathurin didn't get to play. So the first game, Andrew Nembhard went nuts, hitting, I want to say, 5 threes, finishing with 23 points. So Tyrese Halliburton makes this team go. And it's hilarious that this series follows him being voted the most overrated player in the NBA. Shaun and
Overrate that.
Not only that we're Kings fans, but we saw what he was able to do when De'Aaron Fox was out of the lineup his rookie year. And if I would have had 2020 vision, I knew that on May 7th, that they were both no longer on the team, I 100% would have preferred for us to keep Tyrese over De'Aaron.
Yeah, and I thought that was going to be the case the entire time. I thought when the Kings had to part ways with one of their 2 point guards with potential, I can't necessarily call them stars at that point, but rising stars, I thought De'Aaron would be the guy that got traded. And then it was Tyrese, and it just absolutely shocked me. Obviously, De'Aaron had already been on a Supermax contract at that point versus Tyrese came in the league 3 years later, so he wasn't yet. And so, yeah, it shocked me. In hindsight, especially now that De'Aaron Fox is no longer a Sacramento King, obviously we wish that the Kings kept Tyrese Halliburton over him, especially too, like, not to say that De'Aaron Fox wasn't loyal to Sacramento, because he and his family, they were. But Tyrese was all in on Sacramento, and he was heartbroken when he got traded away from Sacramento. And now he has made Indiana his home. And so credit to him for that. But yeah, it's just, man, it's tough. I'm rooting for him, but it's tough. And as we can see on the ticker on the bottom for the audio only listeners, Jaevon's dad, who goes by Big Mun 73 on Instagram, says Warriors versus Knicks in the NBA Finals. That would be quite interesting, and I'll give you your credit if it ends up happening. So we shall see. Kevin, before we get out of here,